Okay, today guys is an extension of yesterday's lesson. Today we're going to be able to figure out the measure of an arc, also figure out what a major arc is, a minor arc is, and also find the area of a slice of pizza, also known as a sector of a circle. How long is the crust of the slice? That's an arc. So a couple of terms that we need to know. We need to know where the center of the circle is. We need to know what the radius is, which we know from yesterday. And then we also need to know what the diameter is, which we know from yesterday. Also, new term, central angle. That's an angle whose vertex is the center of a circle. So you basically draw two radii, or radiuses. A radius here, a radius there. This angle is the central angle that's caused by those two. Okay, the minor arc is a part of the perimeter, or in this case, the circumference. So the circumference is all the way around. A minor arc is a short piece. A major arc is the long piece going all the way around. And this is how you denote them. You say arc is with this symbol right here, going from A to B. You put the endpoints of that arc, and then you put that little arc symbol, and then the larger one goes from A to C to B. So you put ACB, arc over it. If I want to figure out what the measure is in degrees of the central angle taken up by housing, this is what I do. I say, okay, housing would be 20%. Housing is 20% out of 100% the whole way, right? So I say 20 out of 100 is the same as how many degrees, x degrees, out of how many total degrees all the way around? 360. Cross multiply, you get 20 times 360 equals 100 times x. And then you should get, calculating it all out, is 72 degrees. Alternatively, what you could have done is take the whole 360 and multiply by the portion, which is 20 over 100, or you could have multiplied by 0.2, and you get the same thing. 72 equals x. Next, what is the measure in degrees of the central angle taken up by food? Food right there, that's 12%. So you can say 12 out of 100 is equal to x over 360, or take 360, multiply it by 12%, and you get 43.2 degrees. The measure of an arc is equal to the measure of the central angle. So, if the central angle is 45 degrees, you could also say that this arc is 45 degrees. So we could say the measure of AB equals 45 degrees. If the measure of AB is 45 degrees, what is the measure of ACB? In other words, what do we add to 45 to get all the way around to the rest of the circle? To make 360. So that would be equal to 360 minus 45, which is 315 degrees. Find the measure of each arc. BC, they already gave it to us. We know it because the central angle of BC is 32 degrees. And we know CD, that's 58. BD, all the way around, that would be BD. Nope, my bad. I should have said BCD. BCD is the entire outside, so we add 32 plus 58, and you get 90 degrees. The measure of AB. What you see is that this is a straight line. So this angle right here and this 32 angle have to add up to be 180 degrees. So what you can do is say AB is equal to 180 minus 32, which equals 148 degrees. And then BAD. BAD is all the way around. So what I can do is say that all the way around it should be 360. But I'm going to subtract the two parts that I don't need. I don't need this sector or this sector, or those two arcs. So I'm going to subtract 32 and subtract 58. And I get 270 degrees. If I want to find the arc length, I multiply the circumference by the ratio of the measure of the arc over 360. So what I'm actually saying is the arc length is a portion of the circumference. So the portion would be, in this case, 15 degrees out of a total 360. And the whole thing, the circumference, is equal to 2 times pi times the radius. So in this case, they gave us a radius of 3. Circumference is 2 times pi times 3. The whole circumference times the portion that we want. What I'm going to do when I calculate this is I'm going to multiply all the numbers, and I'm not going to multiply pi on my calculator. So what I'm going to do is take 2 times 3 times 15 divided by 360. And I get 0.25, or 1/4. And I'm going to say that I multiply that by pi. Now you can leave it in terms of pi without multiplying it on your calculator, or you can multiply that by pi. And you would get 0.785. And that would be in centimeters or whatever unit I give you. Alright, so find the length of a crust of a 16-inch diameter pizza of a piece with a central angle of 60. So going back to my equation, the arc length is 2 pi r times the portion, the measure of the arc over 360. So arc length equals 2 pi r times the measure of the arc, we'll just call it AC, over 360. Do I have enough information? So 2 times pi times the radius. We have a 16-inch diameter, so that means that our radius is half of that, 8. So we're going to say 8 right there. And then we know the measure of the central angle is 60 divided by 360. Pretty simple. Like I did before, I'm just going to multiply the numbers and not multiply by pi. So 2 times 8 times 60 divided by 360. And I get 2.66. If I turn that into a fraction, that is 8/3 pi. And that would be in inches. I can leave it in terms of pi. Sometimes the book will ask you to do that. Sometimes it will ask you to actually multiply that 8/3 times pi. And that would be 8.378 inches. Find the length of the arc ABC. So arc length equals 2 pi r times the measure of the arc, in this case ABC, over 360. 2 times pi times the radius. Do we have a radius? Yeah, it's 13. Do we know the measure of arc ABC? No, we don't. We don't know this part of the circle, but we know that this part was 120. So we can figure this is 360 minus 120. So the measure of the arc would be 240. Divide that by 360. On your calculator, same thing. Leave it in terms of pi, so don't actually multiply it by pi. Just multiply 2 times 13 times 240 divided by 360. You get 17.33. If you want to leave that as a fraction, turn it into a fraction with your calculator. You get 52/3 pi, and that's in centimeters. If you want to multiply that by pi, we would get 54.454 centimeters. We already did that one. We don't need that repeat. Oh, hang on, I skipped a couple of slides. Now, 10.7, you need to know the area of a sector. A sector of a circle is a region bounded by an arc of the circle and the 2 radii at the arc's endpoint. So basically, it is the area of a slice of pizza. You draw one radius, you draw another, and then between those 2 radii, it's all of that area. A segment, which I will teach you guys next week how to calculate, is just if you cut off an edge of a pizza. Just make a straight line somewhere. It would be that filled area. Come on, pen. All of this. That's a segment. Now, if I want to know the area of a sector, you multiply the area of the circle, the whole area, by the ratio of the arc measure to the whole 360. So what that means is you multiply the whole area by the portion ratio. So it's very similar to the last steps that we did to find the arc length. In this case, we use the area formula. In this case, we have the measure of AB would be 80 over 360 multiplied by pi times the radius squared. Our radius is 4, squaring that. Just like I did before, I'm going to take 80 divided by 360 and then multiply it by 4 squared. I'm not going to multiply by pi yet. You get 3.55 You can turn that into a fraction with your calculator. You get 32 over 9. Pi centimeters squared. You can actually multiply the 32 over 9 by pi, and you get 11.17 square centimeters. Same answer. If I want to find the area of a 60-degree slice of a 16-inch in diameter pizza, so you've got this 16-inch in diameter, which means that it has a radius of 8, 60 degrees right there, 8, 8. That's a piece. You want to find all of that area. So, area of a sector equals pi r squared times the portion, the measure of the arc, divided by 360. And what you see is I just switched the arrangement. I put the measure of the arc second after the pi r squared. It really doesn't matter as long as you multiply them all out. So pi r squared, so I have a radius of 8, squaring that, times the measure of the arc divided by 360. So the measure of our arc is 60 divided by 360. Just like I did before, don't multiply by pi in the calculator, just do 8 squared times 60 over 360. I get 10.66. Change that into a fraction. Get 32 over 3 pi. That would be inches squared. And then if I want to multiply that 32 by pi, I can get 33.51 square inches. This is your guys' homework. Good luck. Get to it. Make sure you use the day to get through this and understand it. Help each other out.